local people, important issues. CBS 10 WILM's weekly focus on the Lower Cape Fear region. This is Byline Wilmington with your host, Don Ansell.
Last month, Titan Cement's subsidiary Carolina Cement officially declined state and local incentives to build one of the largest cement plants in the nation. And this releases the company from guidelines under the State Environmental Policy Act, better known as SEPA, which will enable Titan, aka Carolina Cement, to speed up their plans for developing that plant on the bank of the Cape Fear, the Northeast Cape Fear River. It's the latest chapter in one of the most contentious debates in the region. Today, we're talking to both sides of the issue. We'll begin with the opponents. Mike Giles is with the North Carolina Coastal Federation and a leader in the Stop Titan movement. And Lloyd Smith is a local business entrepreneur. He's also part of Stop Titan, and wanted me to say that he has 2 young children that he's raising in the region. In our next segment, Bob Odom, who is GM of Carolina Cement, and Pastor Tony McGee, who is an outspoken conservative talk radio host, will be joining us. But first, Mike and Lloyd, thank you for both for being here. Thanks. Let's start with your take, Mike, on this whole issue, where it all stands now.
Mm-hmm. Well, where it stands now, that Titan has again gone back on their word or made claims about SEPA and what they were doing and given back. In essence, they've written a check for $4.5 million to avoid a state law. And
wait, what do you mean? They've written a check for $4.5
million? Well, they were granted $4.5 million in grant funds from New Hanover County,
right, and
the state of North Carolina. And in
well,
essence,
actually, the money from the county was in tax incentives when they reach certain goals.
Well, it's not taxes, it's cash payments. That's in their incentive agreement. I have it. It's not tax incentives, it's cash payments to Titan.
Before, when is that?
That's
due?
After they met certain criteria.
They would get not tax abatement,
payments.
Cash payments. That was the deal.
Yes, sir.
And they forgo that.
They forgo that, and the one reason is they don't want to go through any state law that prevents them from obtaining an air permit. And they want this air permit before the full federal environmental review, and there's a reason for that.
What's the reason?
The reason for that is that they get the permit for the site they're requesting for, it ties them to that site in Castle Hayne. And the federal review, which is called the National Environmental Policy Act, which
that's NEPA.
NEPA, which established the environmental impact statement that stakeholders have input into. If you have a state action that ties, or any kind of action that ties you to a particular site or a particular function, it could limit that review, and that violates state law. I'm sorry, it violates federal law.
Lloyd, in your mind, you're an activist in this issue. You're a local business entrepreneur. How has that changed the landscape from your perspective?
Well, my reasoning for being in this fight all along was I think that we can do a better job of attracting the kind of industry that's compatible with our local environment. I'm concerned that this change could accelerate the process, and I don't think that that's
the change of not taking incentives could accelerate
the process,
the development of the project,
getting the plant built and online. So that's my concern at this point.
So how strong is the evidence that the plan, if it's built, will impact the health and well-being of the community?
Well, the evidence is cement manufacturing is a heavy polluting industry, and they're going to burn coal, and it's a double whammy. Besides, if you look at the Sutton Power Plant, they burn coal to generate electricity. Titan is going to burn coal and limestone, so it's a double whammy with the particulate matters and toxic pollutants that are going to come out of that stack. New regulations coming from the EPA on SO2, mercury regulations for cement plants and toxic niche pollutants that come out of that stack.
Well,
it's a polluting industry, and Titan's claim that they won't pollute. We have it in writing, in formal public forums. We're not going to pollute or pollute the environment is a bogus claim.
Well, I don't think they say they're not going to pollute, but it'll be within standards that are.
They have said it to us in meetings. They are not going to harm the environment.
Now there are new proposed EPA air quality standards getting ready to be adopted.
They're already adopted.
They're already adopted.
Yes, sir.
And there is a question whether Titan would be able to comply with these new rules.
Well, that's where we're waiting to see, and that's what the federal environmental impact statement process is all about, and the air permit. The air permit, they're going to have to comply with those new rules. And again, to get that permit before the full environmental review where the federal regulators and the stakeholders get to look at all the alternatives.
If they, well, they are bypassing SEPA, Titan.
Correct. And there's a reason for that again. If they had undergone SEPA when they first came before the public and the scoping process with the federal government, which they started, the permit decision would already be in their hands. So again, they want to avoid that so they can get that one permit.
In the reality of where things stand, Titan will be allowed to build and invest money in the project before the air quality.
Well, they say that they won't build the plant, but they said they want this air permit so they can design.
Well, they will expend a considerable amount of money.
Correct.
Now, do you think that impacts the permitting process? Do you think that the agencies that are involved in the permitting process will take the fact that maybe millions of dollars might be spent?
As a citizen
as
and non-professional in this, I would say I'm concerned that that's the case. Otherwise, why
would you spend millions of dollars? Now, you run a business.
I do.
A significant business industry here. Would you invest millions of dollars before you knew you had a permit to operate?
Well, if I understood the process and I knew that that the step that I had taken increased my chances, it's a bit of a gamble, but I think that they feel like they've increased their chances of getting this pushed through because they've declined the incentives and avoided the more stringent process of SEPA. Then I think they're not amateurs. I think that they know that by doing this, they've increased their chances of getting it done.
Let's talk politics for a minute. There's been speculation with the state legislature now controlled by a Republican majority that state rules might be relaxed to accommodate industries like Titan.
That's a concern everyone should have.
What about the U.S. House and the Republican majority there? Might those new EPA standards be challenged?
Well, the new EPA standards are already being challenged. They're not being challenged by the legislature. They're being challenged by the cement manufacturing companies.
But might they have a compatible ear in
possibly
in the legislature,
both state and this will be a court decision. This is a court challenge. The new EPA regs, the NESHAPs, and the toxic air pollution rules are already state law, and Titan has committed to follow those rules. Their CEO at Titan America, Aris Papadopoulos, and I might mispronounce that name, I apologize, has been appointed as the chairman of the board of the Portland Cement Association, and they are challenging the new EPA rules, which are law. So again,
and what are they basing the challenge on? Do you know?
They're basing on that the new rules are erroneous and will cause them financial harm.
Who gets the final word on whether Titan is given permits to operate? State, or is it state and feds?
State and feds.
It's been reported that Governor Perdue could still require Titan to be bound by, or to the SEPA type regulations. Is that true?
Well, what's true is the governor has the authority, and so does the Division of Air Quality's director has the authority to hold an abatement through several laws that are on state books until any permit into abatement, any state action until this federal review is complete. Again, if the state issues a permit, it will violate the NEPA, the intent of NEPA.
You're a businessman with the current economic environment, Lloyd. How likely do you think it is that the governor would get involved in building hurdles for an industry that could provide jobs and economic activity for the region and the state?
Unfortunately, in the current climate, I think that there's a lot of disincentive for her to get involved. If I'm not thinking of her particularly, but politicians in general, I think going into this current season, where we're thinking about the next 2 years election cycle, why hurt your own chances of re-election if you
So this current downturn, you might call it, in the economy is maybe helpful to Titan and their ambitions?
Oh, absolutely. I think at every turn we hear we need jobs, and we would agree, but we need jobs that don't have such a big impact on the quality of place.
Stop Titan made headlines recently with an announcement of a $1.2 million grant from a national foundation known as EFA. Who are they? How'd that come about?
Well, the EFA is the Educational Foundation of America, and it's an
environmental group?
No, it's a foundation that provides money for children's issues, education issues, and sustainable environments and business. And one of their issues is the effects of coal-fired industry on children. And so we work with them. They support what we're doing, and this money is going to allow us to ramp up our efforts to educate the public.
What are the guidelines for using the money?
The guidelines that we had to provide EFA, their board, the deliverables, what we were going to do with that money, our general guidelines, what we're going to do with outreach, with education, with our legal fight.
So you're going to use the money to help help the fight against Titan coming to the region.
Correct, and that money goes not to the Coastal Federation, but to what's called STAN, the Stop Titan Action Network, a coalition of 8 groups. And that money is going to be used to educate the public and to help us look at all the environmental effects through the environmental impact statement. We have to look at all that information and assess if it's good or bad or if it could be changed, and it takes experts to do that.
We're out of time. Stay with us. In our next segment, we'll hear from the other side. Bob Odom, who is general manager for Carolina Cement, that's a subsidiary of Titan, who wants to build the project here, and outspoken conservative talk radio host, Pastor Tony McGee. Stay with us.